Good morning, everyone at Spirit Life. Pastor Jason Foulkert's here. First off, I wish that I was there with you live instead of doing this by video. But with COVID and some of the situations of being quarantined, I'm at home. I'm addressing you from my kitchen dining room table. And so that's where I'm at. First off, I want to apologize. I wish that Tato Carveo was with us today, with me being there, interviewing him. He was the artist that was planned to come, but we've rescheduled him to a later date. We really want to do that in a very special way because how amazing he is, the talent he has, and I want to be there as well to interview him and really bring that side of it on creativity. So, like COVID has taught many of us, we're adjusting and we're rolling with the punches and we're saying it's okay. We're just adapting and changing, and we know God is in that, and He's going to be with us today. So I'm going to address you with a quick message this morning, if that's all right. I want to talk to you a little bit about, and I guess I would title it, Above and Below the Waterline of Your Life. You're saying the waterline of my life. Well, maybe it's an appropriate week to say that because I guess it's not common. I just moved down here from the upper Midwest, and so I'm pretty used to weather like this where it rains all the time. But I guess for folks down in this neck of the woods, having rain 4 or 5, 6 days in a row is kind of an anomaly and kind of weird. And so water, right? So it's perfect timing, above and below the waterline of your life. Hey, let me tell you a quick story, real quick, and that's going to tie into a principle that I believe Jesus taught us in life that's very important, that we, all of us, and I don't care if you're a student, if you're a faculty member, if you're a coach, if you're administration, whoever's watching this right now, alumni, realize that Jesus had great questions for our life. And that's what I really want to center in on, is some questions that he has for our life. And he does that through some amazing ways and illustrations in the Bible, and we'll get to that. But I got to tell you a quick story, and it's a fun one because it's from kind of where I'm from in a sense. I am kind of an adopted son in many places, but one of those is Minnesota. My wife is a Minnesotan, so we got a Minnesotans. There's like the O's. But anyway, I lived for a lot of years in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. That's kind of where I was when I first started in ministry. And I came from South Dakota where there wasn't a lot of water. You go over to Minnesota, and I'm telling you, you pick up a rock and you throw it. I'm telling you, it's going to hit water. I mean, there's lakes everywhere in Minnesota, just the land of 10,000 lakes plus. They're everywhere. And so because of that, I got into boating a little bit by nature, because everybody has boats and everybody goes on the weekends to lakes and cabins and fish, and it's what they do. So through that experience, I actually kind of got pretty good at like canoeing, kayaking, sailboating, speedboating, water skiing. I did all these things because I wanted to connect with people up there, and I actually kind of grew to love it. So I really love water. I've really enjoyed it, which is kind of cool because on a side note, I don't know if you know this, but Jesus loved water too. He did a lot of ministry around water. Water is just cool. And anyway, let me tell you a story about a guy from the Minnesota area that went on to be world famous. His name was Michael Plant. And Michael was a world-renowned sailboater. In fact, he specialized in solo sailboating on bodies of major water, even around the world, believe it or not, as a racer. Did very, very well. Grew up in the Minnesota area, went on just to a lot of acclaim. But interesting, here's an interesting story. When he was 42 years old, he had a desire to set a speed record to get across the North Atlantic on a solo sailboat and was set to do that. So he built the boat. It was a boat called the Coyote. Great name. And it was a 60-foot sailboat. It was outfitted with some of the highest technology, the best rigging, best sails, best wood. I mean, this thing was designed to go across the North Atlantic, which has huge waves and very choppy and crazy weather. And so he was set to do that, go from America over to Europe, North Atlantic. He set sail, and his family and friends waved goodbye to him. I think it was Boston Harbor where he took off, and everything went great. He spent, he would do the day sailing, and then he would always communicate with people back on the mainland or America where he was at so they could triangulate where he was in the water and things of that nature. Interesting, one day went by and he never responded, but maybe that wasn't unusual because the weather was choppy or rough, and so they waited and nothing. They tried to reach him. They couldn't reach him. Several days went by, and they realized this was a serious situation. They sent out boats and, planes to try to figure out where he was at. Of course, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Could not discover him. They had thought they had lost Michael Plant at sea, which was very unusual because of how good he was at safety and at boating. 32 days went by, and an ocean-going vessel, a freighter was going across the North Atlantic, saw something bobbing up and down in the water. And they got closer to it and realized it was a boat. They call that turtling, when a boat capsizes and turns upside down. And as they pulled the boat out of the water, they realized the name on it was called the Coyote. They had found Michael Plant's 60-foot sailboat. Upon further inspection, didn't take long. They figured out something that went wrong quickly. And the problem was the ballast or the weight underneath at the bottom of the boat was ripped off of the boat. Okay. Okay. Just give me just a second. Maybe to understand this, I can draw a quick picture, and bear with me. I'm just going to draw on the side here, and I'll show you a sailboat. I'll go really fast. Bear with me here. And then, okay, we go this way. Hang in there. I'm coming. And then I'll put some water just so you can kind of get a sense of okay, where that's at. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now, bear with me. That's not the greatest picture in the world, but this is a picture of a sailboat, right? I drew this really fast. Let's just say this is the Coyote. This is Michael Plant's boat. Okay, so you see the picture of the boat. Now, at the bottom of it, I'll darken it, is this thing called a ballast. Now, you don't normally see that on a boat. You just won't because it's underneath the water line. It's below the water level. It's at the very bottom of the boat. And the reason that sailboats especially have ballasts in them is that's what keeps them buoyant. It keeps them on the waves. If you didn't have that heavy weight at the bottom of a boat, a sailboat, any little wave that comes along, any wind that comes along, especially those big sails on a big sailboat, it would capsize it immediately because of the weight above it. And that weight wouldn't hold it, and it would just flip over. So here's what happened. They estimated that what happened with Michael was that he was out on the ocean. A little wave came along. Maybe he was sleeping at night. It capsized him, threw him overboard, couldn't get back on the boat. And that was how it ended for Michael Plant at the age of 42 on his sailboat called the Coyote. Here's a couple of interesting facts about that. Then I want to relate it really quickly with the story this morning from the Bible and who Jesus is and how he relates to us in this situation. Number one, he was a phenomenal sailor. Okay, he was qualified. No one's going to say he didn't know what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. Number two, he had a phenomenal boat that he designed. So he understood the importance of a ballast. And he understood that that was a critical part of what he was building there. And number three, and maybe this is the one that's really important, is that there were some things probably that he missed, though, that we can't miss in life, or we shouldn't miss if we're going to be serious about living above and below the waterline. And that's what connects us to where I'm going with Jesus. Okay, now segue. I want to talk to you a little bit about, Jesus loved to teach. We know that. And he gave some amazing messages. And he gave them to different audiences all the time. Sometimes he talked about farming with the farmers. He talked about money with the tax collectors. He loved to talk about fishing and water and stuff with those who were fishermen. But there was another group that Jesus spoke to quite often, or I should say they came into him and wanted to question him. And those were called Pharisees or scribes. Now, Pharisees and scribes were kind of teachers of the day. To be blunt, they were guys like me. They were kind of pastors of the day, right? They were people who studied theology and they studied the Bible, the Old Testament, and they lived under this law of the Old Testament, and they were always ruminating about what was right and wrong, and they were weighing and debating, and they were analytical in their thinking. And okay, so they were pretty smart cookies, but they would come along, and if you read the Bible, and I encourage you to do that, pick up any of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, you're going to quickly see that they're kind of always hovering around the outside of the discussion or in these group settings, and they're always peppering Jesus with little questions, just nagging on him. And they say, well, yeah, but what about this in the Old Testament? What about this? Or you do this, and your disciples don't do this. And they're always trying to catch him, or you catch him in something. And it's interesting, Jesus kind of takes it in stride, right? He throws a few questions back, and he kind of takes it. But then in Matthew, toward the end of the book, you get to Matthew like chapter 23, 24, it's like Jesus gets uncorked and decides, I'm going to level you with some teaching to everybody here, to you Pharisees, and I'm going to reveal truly who you really are. So it's interesting. He takes them on in chapter 23 of Matthew. So read that later. Pick up a Bible, find it, go online. Matthew 23, just read it. Whoa, he just goes. I mean, Jesus just decides to call them out for who they are. Now, here's the point that I'm going to connect with the boat analogy in Michael Plant. Jesus always knew what was above and below the waterline of their life. Just like he knows it in our life, okay? He does. And so he looked at the Pharisees and he said, you look good on the outside. It's kind of like the boat of Michael Plant. I mean, it was beautiful. Beautiful sails, nice rigging, the newest ropes. The paint job on it was fantastic. Even on the Coyote, it was painted nicely on there. Everything about that boat, looking at it in the harbor, says that is a phenomenal boat. But they couldn't see what was underneath the waterline. And here was maybe Michael Plant's flaw. He didn't maybe double check his ballast well enough, the weight underneath. And what happened is when the wind and the waves came and hit him, because that ballast was torn asunder, who knows by what, a rock or an animal or something hit it and it broke it off. It wasn't secured tightly. That boat flipped just like that. So Jesus comes along to the Pharisees and he has had it. And he says, look, you guys talk a good game, but at your heart, underneath you, at the center of who you are, there's some serious flaws. Inside of you, your ballast is not good. Everybody thinks on the outside, when they look at you, that you got your act together. You dress right, you talk right, you look right, you smell right, you're just right. But I know your heart, and your heart is far from God. Your heart is far from doing what is right. Your heart is far from the people. You don't really care about them. You're self-serving. You're right. You're self-serving. You're not serving them. You're self-serving. And that's wrong. That's not what you should be doing. So I could read the whole chapter, but let me just read a verse to you, just tell you kind of how Jesus unravels here. Jesus looks at them. He says, woe to you. Okay, if someone says, woe to you, that's like, okay, I'm going to get hit with something, right? Woe to you, you scribes and Pharisees. You're hypocrites. Pretty tough, right? For you clean the outside of the cup and of the plate, but inside they're full of greed and self-indulgent. You blind Pharisee. You blind Pharisee. Strong words. There's an exclamation point right there. Boom. First, clean the inside of the cup so that the outside also may become clean. What is he saying? He's saying, look, you need to worry about the ballast of your life. Okay? You need to worry about the weight underneath the water. You're hypocrites because you spend no time there on your soul preparation, but you spend all your time on the paint job on the outside, giving the impression you got your act together. That's just some amazing teaching when you think about it. People often wonder why they wanted to kill Jesus. Like, how did he end up on that hill being crucified? It's because the powers to be at the time were overindulging and overseeing people and lording over them their power. And those power bases back in Jesus' day, those power bases, he took on. And he called them out. And he said that he called them for the injustice they were and how they lived their lives, because he saw underneath the waterline. We come to our life today, and you know what? Here's the interesting thing. We can all live lives in such a way that people will always, they see us on the outside, right? And we can look pretty good for the most part. We've all been there. I've been there. We know how to look good in certain moments, right? We know how to present ourselves in situations, so we look good. But we also know who we are on the inside, right? I think we do. I mean, if we really analyze and ask ourselves the questions we need to do some self-analyzing who we are at our ballast. And that's what Jesus is getting at when he said this verse. He said, look, clean the inside out. Ask the tough questions and go deep there and get strong there. Build a good ballast. And here's how I want to close out our time. I just have a minute or two left. And I want to throw 4 questions your way about building your ballast, the kind of thing that Jesus is concerned about, okay? The things that he really, really gets excited about as far as answering questions of you. And these 4 questions are biblical in the sense that it seems like this is redundant in him. He's concerned about these 4 things. I call them the 4 C's. And I share these with you. I shared them in a memo the other day, and I want to go over them really quickly because they're really, really important for you this semester, I think, for all of us, for me. These are things I need to journal on and think about all the time. And you do too, all of us. And it gets to the heart of who we are. And it does get to the heart of who Jesus was and what concerned him when he talked about the stuff that matters on the inside. And when you do the stuff on the inside that matters, you get that working good, then the stuff on the outside just gets all the better because it's authentic and it's real. And by the way, you know an authentic person or not. You can tell, right? You know. And the authentic people, I guarantee you, they're probably wrestling with these 4 questions. So here they are, these 4 questions. And I wrote them down, but let me just go over them with you really quickly. And then we'll wrap up with prayer and we can kind of conclude our time here. But okay. First question, what is the center of your life? Maybe you think about that. At the center of your life, what is at the center most important in your life? And those could be a lot of things, right? I mean, we all have a lot of things that are very important. I could just use the example of my kids. My kids are very important to me. I have 3 college students. They're at one of the centers of my life, right? So you have to ask the question, what's at the center of my life? There's a lot of people, though, we ask tough questions. There are things at the center of our life that aren't so healthy, right? I mean, some people get really, really consumed by my money. Like if I can just get enough, that needs to be the center of my life to accumulate wealth, right? That's at the center of my life. Then everything will be okay. It could be a lot of things in life, good or bad. But you need to ask that question. When it comes right down to it, the most important things at the center of my life, what are they? And why do you ask that question? Because when you ask that question, you know what it does? It reveals your priorities. It lets people know what matters to you at the center of your life. Number two, what's the contribution, the second C, the contribution of my life? What do I mean by that? What's the things that you invest in, right? What you contribute to is what you care about, okay? There's a world of difference there too. Some people love to contribute their time and energy in the service of others and caring about them. There are a lot of other people who spend all their time and energy concerned about investing only in themselves so that they get ahead. And that was what the problem with the Pharisees, that they were always consumed by who they were and what they wanted, but not the people that they were called to serve in their ministry. And so Jesus called them out and he says, I know what you invest in. You invest only in yourself. You're only looking out for numero uno, you. And that's just not the way to live a fulfilled life and have a good ballast in life, okay? Third question, what's the communication of my life? What's the communication of my life? That's how other people see you. You know what? People will look at you and watch you all the time, and how you communicate, your actions and your words says something about you. Ask that question. What is the communication of my life? How do I best communicate to others? And what does that representation mean? And then here's the final question. We're done. What is the community of my life? Why do I ask that question? Why did Jesus care about that? Really simply, it's who you hang around. It's who you hang around. My dad always used to say to me, Jason, that people are going to know who you are by the people you choose to hang around. So be careful with who you choose to be around. Well, that's pretty good advice. It's pretty simple, but it helps build the ballast in my life, right? The company we keep, all those things. All right, look, I've spoken long enough. I don't need to go on and on. It is a video after all. I know that, you can't go on forever on a video. But here's what I want to challenge you with this morning. I really do. I want you to think about this, students, faculty, administration, anyone, as you're watching this. Think about the ballast of your life. Think about the weight under the waterline. Think about it more often than you should. It's like the stuff above the waterline, it's important. We should be concerned about it. But it's the stuff under the surface that really goes down to our soul that has eternal value. And Jesus knew that. And that's where he spent his time. Jesus, if you study his scriptures and look at his life and what he did, he always asked questions that push people to the center of their life, the contribution of their life, the communication of their life, and ultimately the community of their life. That's where he wanted to reside. And he knew that if he could invest there, ask hard questions there, get people to go deep there, okay, then the ballast is attached strong in the soul. So when the wind and the waves come, and they always do in life, if anything this last year has taught us, even now this week, things change, waves come. How we handle it, that weight under the surface is going to determine a lot, right? And how do we get there? We work on the ballast underneath the waterline. That's the principle. So I hope this message hit home. Thank you for listening. And you know what? I wish I was there. I'll be back soon. I'm so thankful for this team that's surrounding this whole world of Spirit Life. It's the best. We have the opportunity to make an impact here on our campus. Do so, and do so with all your passion, students, faculty, and administration. Love people, love others, love God. Push yourself to be people of ballast people under the waterline. And I guarantee you, then that kind of experience we'll have together. It's a beautiful thing. It just is. All right, God bless. Love y'all, and we'll see you soon around the campus. I'll be back in a not too distant future. Take care. Bye-bye.